In October 1958, a startling headline appeared on the Humboldt Times newspaper. It said, "Giant footprints puzzle residents along Trinity River." According to the article, the country where Bigfoot is seen is some of Humboldt County's deepest wilderness, where not all of its natural secrets are known. Well, it's believed that this newspaper coined the name Bigfoot, a word widely accepted now to describe a huge, human-like beast covered in thick fur and usually doing its best to avoid human interaction. Turns out the whole report was a bust, but that doesn't mean this creature doesn't exist or that this was the first mention of such a wild man. Long is the belief that a wild man or monster lives in the forests and woodlands of West Virginia. Encounters and sightings of this aggressive and fiercely territorial creature are not only common, but well documented. From the Evening Telegram newspaper, March the 8th, 1919, came this report. The belief that a wild man is still lurking in this vicinity, stealing and killing children and young pigs, is stronger than ever just now. A story related by Luther C. Douglas has dispelled all hopes that the terrible creature had fled to other localities. Douglas's story follows. "I was on my way home from a lodge meeting," said Douglas, "when I heard a noise near Ed Wiley's barn, which is close to the road. I thought it might be a dog and paid little attention to it at first. Then, as I was passing a vacant house a short distance from Ed's place, I heard a distant door slam and a wild-looking fellow, in rags and with long hair and beard, just as others who have seen him have described, came running out the front door of the old house, brandishing a huge knotted club and uttering the most horrifying sounds I have ever heard. Being convinced by his actions that I was to be assaulted and possibly killed, I drew my revolver and took 2 shots at him. With this, he turned and fled, screaming louder than ever. I didn't pursue him, not me. It would take a braver man than I profess to be to go on the trail of that horrible creature." The authorities are once again agitating the question of taking some means to capture the much-feared lunatic, Flatwoods monster, wild man, or whatever he is. There are, at least for now, forests and mountains dense enough to offer protection and privacy for all sorts of creatures. We best hope they remain content in their solitude, because when we inadvertently cross paths with one of these elusive creatures, things can get nasty. It was a cool, calm night, a typical Friday night in Monroe, Michigan. Mrs. George Owens, 38, and her daughter Christine, 17, were driving home after visiting with friends. The road was clear and quiet. The driving was easy. Mother and daughter chatted about their evening and plans for the weekend. Suddenly, the women heard a thundering noise, an inexplicable thud. The noise resounded and the whole car shuddered under its force. The women hadn't seen a thing, but concerned they had hit an animal, or worse, a person, Mrs. Owens slowed the car to a stop, intending to get out and inspect the road. But she never got the chance. What happened next happened fast. Before the car had come to a complete stop, Christine rolled down her window to get a better look outside when, without warning, a huge figure darkened her window. It thrust a massive arm covered in thick black hair through the window and grabbed hold of Christine's hair with an enormous hairy hand. It shook her head ferociously, then smashed it into the inside car door with such force she fell unconscious. Mrs. Owen screeched in shock, then terror, and the monster ran off into the surrounding woods, in the words of Mrs. Owens, growling like a mad dog. The next day, Christine shared her terrifying encounter with reporters and was photographed bearing a black eye where, she explained, the monster had slugged her, before going on to describe her ordeal. When he reached through the window and grabbed my hair, he was all hairy. The hairs were like quills. They pricked whenever I touched them. Mrs. Owens and Christine both described the monster as a black, 7-foot, 400-pound grunting thing covered with hair. As incredible as it sounds, this was not an isolated incident. At least 15 reports of this monster had been lodged in the 3 months prior to the attack on Christine. The violence of this attack, however, proved the last straw for locals, and 2 nights later, over 1,000 people went monster hunting in weather which the sheriff's deputy commented no monster in his right mind would be out in. Newspaper reports state that this gathering of monster hunters caused monumental bumper-to-bumper traffic jams, and an official comment from state police that they were not treating it completely as a hoax and were still investigating. It's a strange world. If you enjoyed this video, check out the one on screen now. Until next time, keep your eyes and ears open. Cheerio!